Hello. Guess what, guys? You're almost done. You really, really are. You're so close, I promise. You ready to talk about global societies and education across the world? I wish you were here. Sometimes I feel like Dora the Explorer, like just talking to my screen. Like it's a vibe. I don't know how I feel about it, but it is a thing. Wish we were together in person. Conversation would be so much richer than me sitting in a closet talking to myself. But here we are. We are going to talk about education in a global community this week. So let's chat. So obviously, what's interesting about the world in 2026, I keep saying the wrong year sometimes, is that we're far more connected than we used to be, right? Whereas we used to wonder what the life was like in remote corners of the world. Now we have access to find that out, right? Through social media and through the internet, you can pretty much gather the news of anywhere. There's very few places that are still kind of untouched, if you will, by the global community. So the world's more connected now than it's ever been, which is cool, right? Because we can actually learn things from each other. So, understanding what cultures outside of our own is like is a critical aspect of living in a global community, right? You may not know everything, but if you're familiar with cultures outside of your own, you're better equipped to analyze and understand your own world. And, like, I read a quote somewhere, and this one's going to be kind of cheesy, but just roll with me here, that said something like, the world is like pages of a book. And if you only ever go to one place, you've only ever read one page of the story, right? So if you have a chance to travel, always go check that out. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that you have to have a ton of money and fly across the world, right? There are places even in your own communities that you'll find are very different from the cultural you've expected. Although today we are going to focus specifically on global communities. And we're going to do this through a somewhat large discussion board for this week. Okay. So this week is probably the most tedious of the discussion boards you will do. So the first thing you were going to do is you were going to pick a country. Don't all pick the same one, which means that you need to go to the discussion forum first and see if somebody else has already written about Italy. You don't need to write about Italy. You need to pick a different country. That being said, if you post something about Italy and then somebody else clearly posts something about Italy like 2 minutes apart from you or whatever, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, when have you changed? Like life happens. But there are a lot of countries out there. So hopefully you will not all pick the same one. And if somebody has had it posted for a whole day and then you go and post that, we'll be mad. So don't do that. In fact, if you want to call dibs on your country, like in the discussion forum, and then actually go and do the post later, that's also totally fine with me. So what you're going to do is you're going to prepare an infographic for your discussion board that addresses these questions and some that are also on the next slide. How is the educational country of this similar to ours? How is it different? Would you enjoy being a student in this country? Why or why not? So, for example, it's in one of our anchor projects where I get Pakistan and Afghanistan confused, which is so freaking embarrassing, but whatever. Whenever the U.S. military presence left Afghanistan, right, things deteriorated very quickly in that country. Women no longer have the right to even have their voices heard in public, much less go to school. So if the question is, would I, a woman, enjoy being a student in Afghanistan? The answer is heck no, because I wouldn't get to be a student in Afghanistan, and I would be very, very upset about that. So that's what you're kind of looking for there when you're looking at, would you enjoy being a student in this country? Why or why not, right? For some people, you might. Like, for example, I think I would like the educational system of Italy. I had a foreign exchange student who came with us from Italy, who lived with us, who came from Italy, and they actually kind of start majoring, if you will, like their high schools are clumped by career clusters. So she went to a languages school that focused specifically on like world languages. So she speaks literally like so English, Italian, German, French, and then she taught herself South Korean. So at the time she spoke 4 languages. Now she's up to 5. Her sister went to culinary arts school and now makes beautiful cakes, right? So I do think that would be a cool system to be a part of. Would I enjoy being a student in Italy? Probably. Also because I would get to eat delicious pasta every day, which is a win in my book. Other things I want you to look at as you're preparing your infographic, you're going to look at racial and ethnic diversity. So how are groups who are not in that country's majority racial ethnic group treated? So for example, I'm just going back to Italy because I've physically been there before. There is a large population of immigrants who have basically escaped situations that are dire in Africa, and they are not treated as well as regular Italian, like actual citizens are, right? So I would look at that if I were writing about that. Linguistic diversity. What services do students who don't speak the majority language receive? For example, if I were to transfer to a school in, I'm just trying to think of a random country, China, for example, would they be sensitive to the fact that I don't speak Chinese? Whereas if somebody from China transferred into America, we have EL programs to help them, right? So you're kind of looking the reverse direction of that. Religious diversity. How's religion handled in the country schools? Is it separated? Is it not? Are all schools religious? You're telling me. Gender diversity, do boys and girls receive a difference in education? Like, for example, you'll notice in the Middle East that happens, like in Afghanistan, for example. How's the LGBT community treated in that country? It's going to be different depending on what you look at. Exceptional students. So, what measures does the country take to make sure all students are educated regardless of ability level? Because you'll find a whole lot of other schools don't actually educate their special needs students at all. Which, by the way, off on a tangent we go, but I promise it's worth it. If you're ever in a situation where someone's like, oh my gosh, America's education is so inferior to other countries. We only rank 21st in the globe or whatever, right? I want to clarify that one of the reasons that we rank lower educationally in the globe is because we actually test every single one of our kids. We don't just leave our special education kids behind. So next time that you see someone who's like, oh, our education system sucks, like, don't get me wrong, there's issues with the education system. I'm going to be the first to admit that. But we at least educate every single kid in our country, not just the ones who are high achieving. So keep that in mind when you're researching it. Okay, soapbox over. The last thing you're going to look at is student care. Does this country do anything to support students emotionally or students who are coming from difficult backgrounds? It's all going to depend on what school you pick, right? So moving right along, sorry. As always, things I want to see you cite your sources and use credible sources. Since you are creating this as an infographic that you're putting on a discussion board, you can either hyperlink the sources in the infographic, or you can literally just paste the sources as links on the discussion forum. Like, here's the image, here's my links. As long as they're on there, I don't really care, right? They don't have to be in MLA or APA formatting for this. I'm more interested in what you find than how you cite it. And since we're not writing it as an essay, I'm definitely not worried about, like, is it informal essay citation style? Just get the info on there. Make sure everything that we talked about on those previous 2 slides is on there. And again, check the discussion forum first to make sure that we don't all write about Japan. That'd be boring. After this, you will go to your reflection journal and you will look over the post for this week. And I want you to share one innovative practice you found from another country's education system. What intrigues you about it? And hint, hint, this will be useful for Anchor Project number 4. I'm all about letting us recycle things in this class. That's it for this week. Don't you love a nice short lesson? That's because for me to teach you about every single country in the world would take like, we would be writing encyclopedias, right? So y'all are going to chat each other about it. And I can't wait to see your infographics. If you have no idea how to make an infographic, sorry, let me share my screen one more time. Share. Infinity window, share. All right. My favorite place to go to make infographics is canva.com, just because I'm real partial to it. It'll have you sign in and make an account if you haven't already. Don't ever spend money on Canva. So if you sign in with your Shawnee account, you should have an education account. Hit and miss sometimes as to whether it works or not. But you can go in and you can type in infographic. Okay. And it will give you all sorts of cool templates. You can make it however you want. Maybe you want digital. Maybe you want unlimited. Maybe you want an infographic about health. I don't know. Pick one that makes you happy. I don't know why it looks like that. I usually go in. Here's how I click to get to things. I'd never clicked that create button in my life, and now I'm regretting it. If I go over to templates and I type in infographic, it will go through and give me templates and I can pick one that I like, right? So if I want to write about school in Italy, and I know that the Italian colors are green and red and white. Sorry, I had to think really hard about that for a second. Maybe I feel like I could redo this color scheme and make it work. Or maybe I like this little roadmap that's here. I don't know, right? Pick something that makes you happy. Main thing is, are you presenting it in a graphic friendly format? That's what I'm looking for there. So obviously it doesn't have to be one of these. I'm just pointing these out in case you've never made an infographic before, because I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, what's that? So there's that for you. If you have trouble getting that to work, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am happy to help you in every way I can, even if it's just suggesting potential things that you can use for infographics. So if you've got questions, ask them. If you want to call dibs on the country you're interested in exploring, feel free to go to the discussion board and do that. And then you can always put your infographic in later. And then, of course, you'll be responsible for engaging with 2 extra posts like you always do. And I will look forward to seeing all of them and learning new things, hopefully about countries that I've never heard anything about before. Can't wait. All right, friends, let me know if you got questions. Looking forward to hearing from you. See you soon.